All right, Donald Trump in these wiretapping claims, he isn't giving up, wants an investigation. Even some Republicans are flummoxed at this, but it maybe not be out of the realm of possibility here, given the fact that, of course, a lot of Trump loyalists like to point out that it was Barack Obama's IRS that was targeting conservative groups. It was his Justice Department that was targeting some reporters. So they make a point to say, well, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Still, former CIA and NSA Director General Michael Hayden says everyone's got to step back from this and worry about where a lot of this stuff is coming from. You were critical, gentlemen. It's very good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Of Breitbart, more to the point, a conservative organ that first reported these stories, saying all but saying was a disservice. But explain.
Yeah, no, I actually never criticized the actual articles. I just simply pointed out that there wasn't a body of evidence for the president to make the kinds of claims that he did on Saturday morning. And in fact...
But we don't know that for sure, do we?
Well, I mean,
well, I guess
if you well, no, I'm just reading the papers like you. But, you know, if there's there, show us the there. So far, I haven't seen it. And what was claimed, all right, is inconsistent with the way I know the system works. Number one, in 3 or 4 of the tweets, the president actually says Barack Obama ordered, Barack Obama wiretapped, and so on. Well, since the 70s, the president doesn't have the authority to do that. You got to go through a court.
Right.
All right. The only people who go to the court, there are 2 lanes. One's for foreign intelligence, the other's counterintelligence law enforcement. 2 guys named Jim run that. Jim Clapper does this one. Right. Jim Comey does this one. Last 36 hours, both Jims have said,
but do you think things could happen under their watch that they were not aware of?
This is one of the most closely regulated, guarded activities of the U.S. government. So if you and I are down the street in the bureau office or at a shop at NSA and we've gotten a FISA, Neil, maybe 100 people in the shop, maybe 3 or 4 of us know that we've got a FISA. It's so guarded. And then the collection.
Would that leak out?
Well, let me add. And then the collection from the FISA is so sensitive that it's never commingled with the other stuff. What I'm trying to describe for you here is a tightly knit universe with an incredibly detailed audit trail. And so I'm just wondering if the president kind of slipped his mind that he's actually the president, and Saturday morning he just picked up the phone and called Fort Meade and the Hoover Building and Liberty Crossing and said, hey, why don't you guys come on down here this afternoon? I got a question. And we'd have been done with this by dinner.
But you don't tweet about this kind of stuff.
Number one, I wouldn't tweet about this kind of stuff at all, and I certainly wouldn't do it in kind of the final judgment declaratory manner that the president did.
But you can understand why some are suspicious, Breitbart notwithstanding, but others who say, you know, there was a history of the Obama administration. Maybe not the president himself,
right.
Quite right, and I don't know how that process works, you do, but that where groups were targeted, where journalists were targeted, so you could see how that could feed this argument, right?
Hey, now, I'm not saying I just observe it. I'm telling you, I'm kind of a part of it. Remember the Snowden leaks? And oh, man, that's all out there. One of the problems people like me had trying to explain the Snowden leaks, like, you know, let me explain this, was that it wasn't happening in a vacuum. It was happening in this context of all these other examples of what even I thought were government and executive overreach. It was kind of a perfect storm, and people just kind of lumped the Snowden revelations into these other things in which I actually shared their concerns. So, no, I get it. I'm just trying to come here to you as the fact witness. Yeah, but you had trouble with Dianne
Feinstein and all these others said, you're part of the problem. Yeah. But here's what I want to know, and it's maybe like a human nature question, General. Can intelligence agencies be vindictive? The reason why I mention that is Chuck Schumer, remember after the election, had warned President-elect Trump at the time, you know, I wouldn't be railing off at these intelligence agencies, all but saying it could come back to bite you. Yeah. How would he know? Was that a threat? Do agencies, if their intelligence is questioned or their data is questioned, do they do this type of stuff?
You know, I don't think they do it any more than any other group of human beings. This is not
the intelligence. That is
this is not the latest episode of Homeland. All right, these are good Americans who go to work.
Not all of them, right?
well, no, they are good Americans who go to work, but they're human. All right, and being equated with Russians. But if someone was attacking you again and again, that's the point. If they're being equated with Russians, if they're being equated with WikiLeaks, which is what one of the things the president did, if they're being equated with Nazis, if their best analysis is being dismissed simply because it's inconvenient for the president-elect, yeah, there are emotional issues that grow up. Look, I took over CIA in May of 2006. One of the biggest problems we had was leaks.
That's right.
And my first speech to the workforce was, this is stopping.
I remember that.
We are out of this as source or subject. And
then that leaked out.
No, I did it unclassified. My tool, though, Neil, wasn't in a vendetta, wasn't an investigation, wasn't beating people up. My tool was openness within the agency so that people actually felt they had a place in which their views were valued. I'd suggest that approach for the administration.
Well, why not for the agencies that report to the administration?
Well, I'm sure Mike Pompeo is precisely doing that kind
I
of
only
thing.
said it with high regard for you because you dealt with Democratic Republican presidents, and it was hard to tell. I think you're an independent. So
actually,
you tick off both. So there's something admirable about that.
Equal opportunity.
But having said that, and I know it's out there, this idea that the agencies have it out for President Trump, that things leak inordinately with this administration, whether it's a phone call with the Australian Prime Minister that someone gets out, or conversations that Michael Flynn had. But it happens again and again and again. Why?
Okay, so Neil, let me just take that and parse it out a little bit. And I'm going to take about 45 seconds, but it's really important, all right? The intel guys aren't in the room when the president's angering the Australian Prime Minister. The intel guys aren't on the phone call. It's his staff. The intel guys aren't in the room when he's having the tete-a-tete.
But is someone else hearing that phone conversation?
With the president of Mexico. Mike Flynn's conversation with the Russian ambassador was rattling around the White House for 2 weeks before it became public. Look, we know that Sean Spicer told all of his staff to hand in their phones.
Right.
There's no intel guy in that room, so I would not automatically assume that the source of this are intel people, even when the data being leaked is
I was in the
intelligence.
State Department on the Australian Prime Minister call.
Okay, maybe.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to sound smart in front of you.
But what you've got is a situation that we as Americans have to agree is really bad.
Right.
We cannot have the permanent government at war with the incoming administration. Both sides need to step back, take a breath.
All right. Playing to the edge, American intelligence in the age of terror. Served this country nobly and well and ticks off both sides, which again is a very admirable quality.